Leaders really conscious now, fly more than ever, about the impact they have on others. When I walk into a room, when I walk into any environment, what's the positive thing I'm doing around the people I'm at in any scenario you're in?
Yeah, I think that's a natural course of my own energy. I don't find it that difficult to see glass full, more close to it, see the good in people. So I think that's important. And obviously with tiredness and being pulled, your focus gets pulled in all sorts of directions through performance and the role. But coming back to what you're good at, and I remember we lost 3 games in a row, and it was only my first year as a coach, and there's a lot of different pressures that come with that you haven't experienced before, and I don't know it'll come again. Sitting in a coma for 2 days in my bed going, how do I get out of this? What do we do? And playing a Friday night and finally get myself into a energy level just to communicate with my wife, let alone anyone else. And she goes, you know how to do this. You know how to get out of this. I said, what? She goes, just be you. It's a positive version of you. So instead of looking at all the things we didn't do in that game or the last 2 weeks, I scrapped it and just said to the coaches that day, I said, boys, don't come tomorrow and show us what we didn't do. I'm not interested. Find evidence of all the things that we have done and what we're going to do next. Let's concentrate on the team we want to be, not the team we are right now. Funnily enough, it was a great reset of we might have tried to go too fast, too quick with the group when you go, no, they got that, let's go to this.
Yeah.
So we just went back in time and a little bit and say, boys, if we're going to be this great pressure team, we're going to do this. So funnily enough, we won the next 10 games in a row, I think, from that. But it was a moment that the group was potentially waiting for, that heavy stick. And not to say that you can't give a heavy stick, but at that time, they probably got what they'd least expected. And it was a moment to go, all right, no, we need to be this team. Let's go be this team. So that 80-20 rule, if you like, of positivity or reward behaviour, and then the 20% of hey, let's get better in this area.
How do I positively impact? Well, I genuinely believe that people should have a big swing. I get super excited by speaking to people who are a bit hungry. That to me is something I'm super passionate about, which is that sort of 18 to 22-year-old, where you're out of school and you're trying to look at the big wide world. For me, I love that innate coaching, when I speak to them and I'm like, what are you going to do? You're going to travel overseas? Or I just love that coaching. And so I think when I speak to friends who are like, what do I do next? I think I positively impact them by, helping them strategize, write up a plan, be clear on their vision, to confront limiting beliefs, and then start.
Well, this last weekend, I went to be the guest of honour at Annie Smithers restaurant in Trentham, Victoria, to celebrate Mother's Day. And she was having this lunch and said to the room full of people, which was very lovely, Stephanie is my kitchen mother. Everything I know, she taught me. Well, that is absolutely not true, but it was lovely to hear her say that. And she had asked me to design the menu, which she then cooked. So she is one of my very, very special foodie friends. But there are a lot of people who have worked with me and alongside me. And I think I would reiterate that what they've got from me is very positive modelling, because I really do live what I say. I just don't eat fast food because it doesn't seem to me to be as interesting as the food I can cook myself. That doesn't mean I don't eat a bit of street food here and there, and I do like sushi, but I'm not tempted by the packaged product when I can go home and make something much more beautiful. So I've watched people go on to run their own restaurants, and it's over such a long time now. There's often somebody who comes up and says, I worked for you at such and such. Now that includes, of course, the dishwashers and the front of house staff. They remember the experience as positive and enthusiastic. And so, I stick with it. Enthusiasm sweeps all before it. And so when I'm working with somebody in the kitchen, I can't help sharing with them a bigger picture. If we're chopping up leeks, I might say, goodness, I remember having this beautiful pasta dish or this beautiful pastry which was full of leeks that had been softly stewed in butter for about 15 minutes, then drained and then mixed with and the person who's chopping the leeks just hears that. It's just sort of part of it's another track going through their mind. But if it happens every day and a different product every day, they do get a different sense of the possibilities of food. And a lot of the people that I influenced positively, I'd like to think, they were young people full of enthusiasm, but they often didn't have very strong food backgrounds. They were interested and they became very competent, but they took on a lot of knowledge and they understood that food was more than just nutrients. You're not just absorbing calories, you're eating people's stories.
Constructive criticism is much more helpful, that you want to help people get better at what they do, to understand what you're trying to do. So I think the positivity is helping people find out more about themselves and about their capabilities. It doesn't mean that you stick with things that aren't working, but that you give people a chance and that you feel you've been fair. And I remember early on when I was partner in a law firm, and I had to accept the responsibility of some people aren't going to work out, and some people in my team I'm going to have those terrible conversations with. And I thought, if you can put your hand in your heart and say, you've been fair, and there are going to be no surprises, because if it's me, I'd want to know where my shortcomings were along the way, and I was given a chance to fix it. And it could be this job isn't for everybody, but I think that's part of helping people develop and helping them understand that perhaps what they're doing isn't their real strength and that they need to look somewhere else. So I think it goes back to being somewhat easy to get along with, not getting angry at people for something that is usually about you more than about them. And I think that we all like to work with people that seem to like us.
Well, I think firstly, our sense of self-awareness is much greater than it actually is. So that's something to be aware of. And research shows 95% of us think we're self-aware, and only 10 to 15% of those that we lead agree. So that's a pretty scary statistic. So when you say having a positive impact, I guess my first thought is, how do you know it's positive? Because we may have a sense that, that they love it when I fist pump them every day when I come into the office. There could also be a situation where everyone dreads that they've got to do that every morning, because you do that as a perfunctory thing, but then for the rest of the day, you're the dickhead. So there's this whole sense of understanding how you're impacting people, but only through feedback. Like, unless you're actually checking how that impact is being measured, I think it's hard for us to judge. Sorry, that feels like a complicated way to answer your question, but whenever we say a positive impact, how do you know? Can I give you an example? During the pandemic at the start, when we were all at home, there were a lot of leaders who thought they needed to check in with their teams online, like every hour, every day or whatever. And there were team members just going, can you just back off? Like, I know you care, but this is now really irritating because I don't need you to check in. So, I mean, that's so simple an example, but it's that idea that we must get feedback, and we must create a feedback culture where people feel they can say, mate, the fist pumps, we love the intention, but let's focus on this instead.